Well, hello there, lovely and loyal patrons, and welcome to another brand new exclusive Patreon-only lesson for you guys, my true believers and supporters. You're with your good buddy, Uncle Ben. I've had a big influx of new supporters over here on my Patreon page within the past couple weeks. I want to take a second first just to say thank you guys so much for joining up. You all are making my life so damn good. Y'all are better than I deserve. So thank you so much for your patronage and support. I couldn't do it without you guys. Now, I assume most of you guys are here because you've already watched Weekend Wake Shop 262, in which I outlined how you can cover the entire neck of the guitar using only two simple shapes, the G major shape and the E minor shape, arranged in that 3+4 scale pattern method that I use a lot. But just imagine how lethal you're gonna be when you know all 7 modes in the key of G. Shit's about to get deadly. And that's exactly what I'm showing you guys in today's lesson. All 7 of the mode shapes that are available in the keys of G major and or E minor. Like I talked about in the original video, they're the same note, so you can use them either way. And keep in mind, after you learn these shapes, you can start them off on any root note on any string and simply connect that 3+4 scale shape to it and start shredding in any position of the board. The only thing that you really got to watch out for is that stupid freaking B string that's always throwing off everything that we do on the guitar. Let me just use an imaginary pattern here to demonstrate how the B string throws off everything across the neck of the guitar. Let's say I had a scale shape here starting from C. I'm going to be using my 8th fret low E string. Let's just say there was a scale shape that was just a really simple stacked up 1, 2, 3 fingering, okay? So just like this, and then the same thing on the next string, okay? Now, I could start that off from another C, like let's say the 3rd fret A string, and it would stack up exactly the same. No problem at all. I could do that from the 10th fret D string. There's a C note, stack them up. No issues at all. You could even start this off from the 13th fret on the B string. That's a C note. And you could stack up those scale shapes, no problem. It's very versatile. The only catch comes is whenever you start this pattern off on the G string, okay? Because if you were to do that from fret number 5 here on the G and stack those shapes up just like you have been, the notes on the B string are now incorrect. They're a half step too low compared to what we had on the other strings. So how we're gonna fix this is by simply scooting up a fret whenever we cross over the B. So again, a lot of these patterns we're going to talk about have these like stacked up symmetrical ways to look at them, and it's always going to work that way unless you start off on the G, and that's going to mean the B string needs to slide up 1 fret. Again, 1 fret higher. It's not lower. You're always going to be moving up towards the body 1 fret whenever you take one of these shapes from the G to the B. Okay, the key of G has 7 different modes. They're all the same notes and stuff. And you can even look at them as all just being extensions of the G scale if you want, and just use these as various patterns you can use to start the G scale in other areas of the neck off of different root notes. Either way, tomato, tomato, it doesn't really matter that much. We're going to be using G Ionian, A Dorian, B Phrygian, C Lydian, D Mixolydian, E Aeolian, and the enigmatic F sharp Locrian. The G Ionian you already know. It's just like the major scale pattern you learned in the last video. So let's start off here on our low E string number 3. We're just going to play the big wide stretch, 3, 5, 7. Same thing on the next string. And then move that little finger up a whole step. And again, that'll work from any G note. You're really close right now to the 5th fret D string. There's a G note. Let's start from right there. If I was starting this off from the 12th fret G, there's that problem area. It's going to have to sneak up a half step. Then everything's back to normal. 1 down, 6 to go. Next up, we're going to have A Dorian. Now this is going to be the same notes, but starting off from the note A instead, the 2nd note of the G scale. And how we're going to play it is like this. Let's start off here from the 5 on the low E string. There's an A note. We're going to play this right here. Play your kind of 1, 3, 4 shape like what you did with the minor. That's frets 5, 7, 8. When you get to the A string though, it's not going to be a symmetrical shape. You're going to go back to that big wide deal. You might even be able to visualize how that connects with the scooted up 3-note shape that we used from the G Ionian pattern. That's just what you're using right here in A Dorian. So anyway, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 9, and then move up a half step with your little finger. And you got all 7 notes of that scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, I could do that from this A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Even from this B string fret number 10. Just keep in mind that that one is not a symmetrical shape. It's a little harder to visualize. Next up, if we start off with the G scale from the third note, B, 1, 2, 3, the B note right here, we're gonna play a B Phrygian shape, and it's gonna go like this. We're gonna start off here by playing 7, 8, and 10. Again, there's our root note B. We need a B note to start this pattern off with. It could be this one, or that one, or that one, whatever you wanna do. But either way, you're gonna play kind of your 1, 2, 4 finger shape, you know? You ever heard of that one? And you're gonna play 7, 8, 10. Move on here to the A string and play 7, 9, 10. Again, asymmetrical pattern. Keep your eyes out for that one. 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10. And then lastly, move your little finger up a whole step to get that 12th fret right there. Let's try it from this B note, 2nd fret on the A string. Visualize the same pattern, same fingerings if you want to. 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, hop. Next up, we've got the C Lydian scale, the 4th mode of the key of G. And this is really cool. What we're going to do is to start off on a C note. Let's use our 8th fret low E string here. We're going to play that big wide stretch like we were doing the major scale, our 1, 2, 4 stretch. So it's frets 8, 10, and 12. Next on your A string, come up here and play 9, 10, 12. So the first finger here kind of cheated up a fret when I made that transition, okay? So 8, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12. And then with your little finger come up a whole step. Maybe we do it from the 10th fret on the D string. There's a root note, there's C. That works. Maybe I start it here from the 13th B. That's a C note. Again, once you start playing the ball where it lies and not relying on your big bottom E string here to find all your root notes, you can really do amazing things and start playing over really complicated changes and tunes that change keys and all that kind of jazz. If you just, stop where you're at, look around you and go, oh, there's a G note. I could start my Ionian pattern from right there. Or maybe you end up, in this area of the board. And you're like, oh, there's a C note. I could start that C Lydian pattern from right there. If you can fight the stupid B string. And again, you can always just play the ball right there where it is. No reason to refer back to your low E string to tell you where you are. This is stuff that once I started incorporating it into my playing made monumental differences. I'm not gonna say like, it helped. No, it changed the way that I play. So learn to start shopping local, looking around, finding the nearest closest root note to you, and putting a scale pattern that you know starting right there. Okay, next up, D Mixolydian, the 5th mode. Now, what we're going to do right here is I'm going to jump down the neck a little bit. I'm kind of getting tired of playing up that low E string, and I want to be a good example to you guys and not use my low E string for all my root notes. So I'm going to play the 5th fret here on the A string. The Mixolydian pattern starts off feeling just like your major scale pattern with that big wide stretch. So this frets 5, 7, 9. Same thing on the next string. Very similar to your major scale. A Mixolydian scale and a major scale are almost the same thing. The thing that gets different is what we're about to do next. So you remember in the major scale pattern how you went then up a whole step for that 7th note in there? A Mixolydian scale doesn't go up a whole step, it goes up a half step like this. Okay? That's what makes a Mixolydian different than a major. It's got a flattened 7th interval. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not this 7 like a major scale has, but a lowered 7, a flat 7. This is cool too because now you can start really combining these patterns. Like let's say we started off with the G Ionian pattern that we learned first, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Then let's say I looked around and I said, oh, here's a D note under my first finger. I could use that D Mixolydian pattern right here, right? Again, I looked around, I saw where I was, and I was like, oh, I'll use that as a root note for the next scale pattern. So we've gone from like G Ionian to that D Mixolydian shape. Well, now I'm pretty close to an A note. There's an A note here under my first finger. Maybe I'll use that A Dorian shape that we learned second, starting from this A note instead of that one, It'd look like this. G Ionian, D Mixolydian, A Dorian. And keep in mind, whenever I'm using the names of these modes, like Dorian and Phrygian and stuff like that, it's really only to drive a name home to the pattern that we're playing. Simply because your fingers are, wiggling through a Phrygian pattern doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna sound all like dark and menacing and stuff like that. If it's not being played over that accompanying chord, it just doesn't sound out that way. Quick example, I'll try not to get too long-winded about this, but if I'm playing this B Phrygian pattern here from my 2nd fret A string, again, that sounds all like Spanish and evil and exotic and stuff, which is cool. But if I'm playing that over a G chord, it doesn't really sound so exotic or anything anymore, right? And it's because to a G chord, whenever we play this note, we're starting off on the 3rd. That's like one of the happiest notes in the world, is a major 3rd. So when we play through that B Phrygian scale, it sounds like you're playing 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th root. Trying to keep that G note going underneath here. Again, you always got to look at these modes in terms of like, what are they being played over? Now, if you're playing that B Phrygian pattern over a B minor chord, however, that would be a horse of a different color. Because now, since we're playing over B minor, which is the chord that a B Phrygian scale generates, if you harmonize it, those sound like much different intervals than those happy 3rds and 4ths and stuff that we got out of the G major chord. To B, that's root now. Again, to G, that was 3rd, right? But to B, that's root. Minor 2nd or flat 2nd, that's a really ferocious interval. Minor 3rd gives it a very minor sound. There's a 4th. There's a 4th, a little weird harmonic there. 5th now, minor 6th. Now that sounds like what you think of when you think of Phrygian. So keep in mind as we go through these things, just because your fingers are wiggling through a Locrian shape, it doesn't really mean you're going to sound all nasty and diminished and stuff, unless it's being played over an F sharp Locrian chord. Next up on the hit list is going to be the E Aeolian scale. This is the same thing as the E minor pattern that you learned in the original video. So start off from an E note, let's say the 2nd fret D string. We're going to play that 1, 3, 4 shape. Same thing on the next string. And your bonus note is achieved by just scooting up a whole step with your little finger. I suppose you could do the little scoot up off of your first finger like this. But to me that kind of ruins the fun of the symmetry that you see at the bottom of some of these patterns. Again, any E note, use that pattern. And the last one that we're going to talk about here is that F sharp Locrian mode, which is the 7th mode of the key of G. And this can be found by finding an F sharp note. Let's use the 9th fret A string. And this is another one that starts symmetrical. You're going to play fingers 1, 2, 4. So in this position, that's going to translate to frets 9, 10, 12. Same thing on the next string. Then jump up a whole step. And that's your F sharp Locrian pattern. It really wouldn't be a bad idea just to pick a string set and try to play every mode up the entire thing, you know? So maybe I start off here on the low E string number 3, and I have G Ionian. Now I go from the A note, A Dorian, the B note, B Phrygian, the C note, C Lydian, the D note, D Mixolydian, the E note, E Aeolian, the F sharp note, F sharp Locrian, then you're right back at G again. You could even mix up the order and maybe start here from the E note on the D string, you know, and start E Aeolian, then F sharp Locrian, G Ionian, and so on. It sounds like this. E Aeolian, F sharp Locrian, G Ionian, A Dorian, B Phrygian, C Lydian, D Mixolydian, then you're back at E Aeolian again. Go through them organized like that until you really get it down, and then just have a complete free-for-all with it, maybe over a backing track or something like that, and try to pick any root note that you can on any string set that you're on and attach one of these mode shapes to it. Maybe I'll do something like this where I'll start off with maybe the B Phrygian scale pattern. Now see, from where I'm at right now, I'm really close to an F sharp note right here on the A string, so maybe I go F sharp Locrian. There's a G note right here on my A string, maybe I use G Ionian. That puts me close to another B note here, 14th fret A, maybe I'll do that Phrygian pattern right there. Here's another B note, 16th fret G string, maybe I'll use B Phrygian again. And then from where I ended up, there's an F sharp note that I can find right here on the 19th fret B string. So maybe I think F sharp Locrian again and use that shape. There's no limit to what you can do by combining these 7 shapes, and they're easy to see 3+4 2-string scale shapes. So see what you guys can come up with. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you so much for supporting me here on my Patreon channel. I hope to make it worthwhile for you guys and give you a bunch more bonus lessons as we go along as my way of saying thanks. Well guys, it's been fun, but I have a ton of video to edit. I'm recording this like a few days before I leave to go play on Shiprocked, which is like a crazy, hard rock heavy metal cruise, playing with Andy Wood Trio as well as Skank Banger, our 80s hair metal tribute act. It's going to be a blast, but I have to get like 2 or 3 weeks worth of work done before I leave. So I got a long night ahead of me, and so do you guys with all these cool new shapes that you can use to travel across the neck at light speed. Cheers guys, you know what to do. Let's clickin', more pickin'.